Hey everybody and welcome back to Split Couch Games. I'm Scott.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Couchcast number 71.
Yeah, 71.
Alright.
We've been doing this for probably what would qualify as too long by some people.
But here we are doing it anyway. So Alright, so for today's topic, once again, there's really no video game news that's worth talking about, in our opinion. And so we're going to be talking about The Division 2. And kind of... I messed up how I wanted to do my joke. But
Well,
that's okay.
here, I'll take over.
I had a
you,
joke.
You collect your
already.
thoughts.
I had a
You
joke.
collect your thoughts.
It's over.
I'll take over.
Yeah, go for it.
So, just to have an addendum to your previous statement, if there's ever any sort of video game news that comes out that you guys want to hear us talk about, then either leave a comment on one of our videos, or if you go into the description of the video, both of our Twitter handles are down in there, and you can follow us on Twitter and tweet at us. So if you want to hear us talk about something specific, then do that, and we'll take it into consideration. We can't guarantee anything.
We'll probably
'cause
do it
sometimes
because we're desperate to please. All right.
What did I say about collecting your thoughts?
I thought I had them. I thought that they were there, then they weren't there. It's the whole thing.
Anyways, so like Scott was saying, today we're going to be talking about The Division 2. And more specifically, what we're going to be talking about is what The Division 2 would need in order for us to be hooked and interested by it. Specifically, like as a sequel, as an independent game.
Mm-hmm.
We played the first Division briefly when it first came out and really haven't played it since. So there is a good chance that some things that we talk about already exist in the first one. And that's great and all, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're going to be talking about is if we were to go out and buy the Division 2, it would need these things in order for me to want to continue playing it. That type of thing.
Yep. And basically, to sum up what Ben's saying, is that we're going to continue our tradition of talking about things that we don't know anything about.
Yeah, basically.
All right, Ben. So, I'll start us off with what I think is probably the most obvious, is that I would like there to be more than just bullet sponges as enemies and bosses and all that. I just kind of felt like we played probably like 5 missions, to be fair. Like, we didn't play that much, but each one was just going to this building.
I've played substantially more than you.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that much.
That makes sense. I lost interest really quickly in that game.
Yeah.
But basically, like, what I gathered, and like, I think I remember people saying, like, complaining about this as well. I don't know if that's changed since then, but that, like, pretty much every mission was go in here, shoot these guys that you shot 50 million times before, and then go shoot this boss that has a massive amount of health. And then, like, collect the loot, and then use that loot to go fight a slightly stronger enemy. And
Yeah.
I want a little bit more engagement than that.
Yeah. So, like, what specifically? I mean, like, what would you want to see? Like, if we're talking about in a game world where literally anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just
what
think,
would
like,
you want to see?
more.
Because, I mean, in my opinion, I do agree that the enemies in the Division did feel very bullet spongy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's kind of an unfortunate byproduct of it being played up and effectively played as more of a tactics-driven game.
Sure.
But then things don't react realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, like, if there was no cover mechanic and it was just like a third-person shooter and maybe in a little bit more of a sci-fi setting,
Mm-hmm.
the bullet sponge thing probably wouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like,
But
I guess what I would like to see so I think there's like 2 parts to it. One, I wasn't hooked by the story, and we can definitely talk about that later. So, like, everything that was happening didn't feel like it mattered. It was literally just for the
Yeah.
loot.
Yeah.
And then, but two, I think like kind of what you're saying is that like the game is built around the idea of tactics, but I felt like the tactics kind of ended at, hey, let's peek over the cover and shoot when they're not looking at me.
Yeah.
And especially when you have like a 4-player co-op game, I think that there should be more value placed on those types of tactics. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like maybe like even like having more defined roles as like a person like kind of like the classic like DPS tank healer roles
type of thing. Yeah.
could kind of make it just a little bit more like bring that co-op aspect higher.
Yeah. And I think you are right in the sense that boosting the importance of tactics and class roles and that kind of thing would be something that would kind of help solidify my interest as well. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that having a heavier focus on those things would almost do the opposite of your first point. Because I feel like if you're going to have a lot of tactics and you're going to have, you know, class roles of like tank, DPS, healer, that kind of thing, then the enemies have to be bullet spongy.
Well, I guess like yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that like the bullet sponge is not necessarily a bad thing as long as the fight remains interesting. Right? Like if it takes a while to take down a boss, that's fine. But it can't just be look over cover, shoot, shoot, shoot. Oh, he's shooting at me. Get down in cover. Wait.
Yeah.
Shoot, shoot, shoot. Like that.
Okay.
That's not engaging. But like, if it's like, hey, you know, I don't know off the top of my head, but like, if it's just more like maybe like there's mini objectives throughout that like you have to like push a button or like get someone to the button to push it to in order to be able to deal damage or something like that. That's just like a basic mechanic that could spice things up, force you to like do things that you wouldn't normally do in a fight.
Gotcha. So more just mechanically driven encounters and that kind of thing is what you'd be looking for.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it's not necessarily the bullet sponginess as much as it is the lack of any inherent encounter design. Because it is just like literally I'm hiding behind a wall and I occasionally move if he gets a better angle on me, but otherwise I just hide, pop up when he's reloading, and then shoot at him a bunch.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I agree. I feel like the tactics aspect of the game can be experienced, but probably not to the level that everyone was hoping for. Because especially later in the game, because again, I played more than you. I still didn't like get to the end game, if you will. But I did play substantially more than you. I think I unlocked like all but one area. Like that's how far I got into it and everything. But the layout of the encounter spaces as well as other factors do end up getting to a point where, you know, you do have like multiple routes essentially that you can access from the beginning of the encounter. So, you know, you could have like one person like stay there like right by the front door essentially, and then the other two kind of like take up flanking positions, and then maybe a fourth like goes off and crawls up into a sniper tower basically or something like that.
Yeah.
Probably not nearly as extensive as what you might find in something like Ghost Recon Wildlands. But the options were still there.
Yeah.
And you could, you know, kind of like tactically kind of coordinate, okay, you know, it's like you take this guy, I take this one, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But where it kind of fell apart is where those rooms, and or the places where you could set up that way were either completely ambient, so it didn't really have any sort of inherent benefit to doing it that way, or if it was part of an encounter, all that you would do is make it so that those first few kills were pretty much immediate.
Yeah.
Because then there would just be like a few waves of guys coming out of like the back of the room that you guys can't really get to.
Yeah.
And it definitely felt like a lot of the encounters were designed with, here's a box that we're going to put everybody in, and here's where the players come from, here's where the bad guys come from, and then they press the go button.
Yeah.
And to me, that was probably one of the biggest things that felt lacking in the game, was, kind of like what you said, the encounter design, because there wasn't any sort of inherent need for tactics and that kind of thing. And sometimes even just like regular basic encounters, so not even boss encounters, were difficult enough to the point where you pretty much had to hide behind the one piece of cover, lob a couple grenades, and then, pray for the best, basically.
Yeah.
And the story is normally always something that I harp on. And I'm not saying that the story in the First Division was good, but the story from what I experienced was passable enough that I could easily ignore it and still be having a good time. Because when it came down to brass tacks, I did enjoy playing the Division for the type of game that it was. But the problem is that it didn't really have a lot of like good hooks to keep me playing. I enjoyed taking cover and like, having a sniper rifle like popping up, shooting a guy in the head, and then, oh no, now there's 10 other guys and I have to figure out the best way to take them out before they kill me, and that kind of thing. But it is also very much a different experience when you're playing solo versus in a group. And I don't know if they have any sort of encounter difficulty scaling or not, but you definitely feel the heat when you're playing solo.
Yeah.
And that may have been why I felt like I was having a good time, was just simply because like now I am the only one here, so I have to be tactical about my positioning and everything. Cat's just knocked a bunch of stuff over.
Excellent. Okay.
So yeah,
I'm gonna take this opportunity to pause you because I want to go back to the story before we get too far away from it.
I was actually about to.
Okay.
But you can go ahead.
I have a quick question because obviously you played more. Is there a bad guy? Like, is there like a main bad guy anywhere in there?
A main bad guy. I don't think so.
Okay.
But I didn't actually. Well, I didn't actually beat the campaign because I was being very completionist about my progress through the game.
Okay.
So, I was, picking up all the collectibles, like doing all the side missions, that kind of thing. So I don't really remember a whole lot of the main story. So I think, yes, there was, but I don't know to what extent.
So
because I remember when the game first came out, watching some Twitch stream, I can't remember who, and they were in essentially like the final fight, and there was like a guy in like a helicopter or something that you had to take down.
Yeah, I guess like where I'm going with this is like, I feel like the Division would be like a prime candidate for sort of like a story structure where each area that you unlock has like a boss guy that like he has like his own like story and like a reason why you want like a reason to hate him, and then like he becomes the boss fight at the end, and like everything in that area leads up to fighting him. I think like that would add like more weight to those boss fights that you come across, instead of like having one at like every single, like at the end of every mission. It's at the end of every area, and like maybe like you have like kind of like stronger enemies throughout, obviously, but like
So, like, to make sure that I'm understanding fully and everything, because there's a little bit of a break in there because Skype is amazing.
Skype is
And
amazing.
we complain about it every time. But, like, there's, like, the main boss, and he has an area, and then there's, like, all the sub-areas, and taking out the sub-areas makes, like, the main boss easier, basically.
I mean, that could be a
Or-
thing. What I was thinking is like each area has its own boss, like, and then like there's sort of like the big boss at the end of it that you eventually fight once you kind of take out his quote unquote lieutenants, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like that could also be a thing where it's like, yeah, the main boss is easier once you like beat their lieutenants and get intel or something like that.
Yeah, or, you know, it's like, oh, well, you took out this lieutenant, so the automated turrets don't function or something like that.
Yeah. Or like you can like hack him for a bit or something like that, just like
Yeah, something.
yeah. I mean, I think that would add like a little bit of weight to the story, especially like because each mission would then like kind of have a reason. Like I think like the first mission in the game is you have to like storm a hospital and like take the hospital back. Or it's like it's a sports arena turned into a hospital or something.
It's something like that, yeah.
But like, and you do that, but like, there's no context for that really. It's just like they're like, "Whoop, the bad guys are taking over the hospital. Go get them."
Well, the context is like they took some like doctor hostage or whatever.
Sure.
And you need to go get the doctor.
Sure.
And then that like adds to your medical supply and also unlocks a thing in your base or whatever.
But like, as far as like story goes, like that's not like a story point. That's like a video game reason to go do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's like kind of with games like The Division, like there's sometimes a disconnect between story and video game reason to do things. And if like you can marry those together better, then it becomes much more interesting.
Yeah.
And
And I definitely agree with you there. And I think that shit, what was I gonna say? I completely am spacing on it now.
Well, while
so
you think
can
about
keep
that,
going.
I'll continue with my thing. I think they also like they almost tried too hard at the beginning of the game to get us to care about what was going on, because like
Yes,
the very first line
definitely.
was like, this girl was like, "I grew up here, and now look at it," and I'm like, "That's great. I don't know who you are." Like,
I don't know who you are. I know this is New York,
Yeah.
but I only know that because of the promotional stuff.
yeah. So like, I think like. It's always like a tough thing when in writing where it's like, do you launch right into the story or do you like have a little bit of build up? And like, I think the answer is that you have a little bit of build up, but you don't want it to be like too long that it's boring. But you can't just like drop them right in and expect people to care about the characters.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the Division 2 can like just because I think they're setting it in Chicago, so it's like completely different story.
Well,
Or
I mean, I think that's like a rumor, but nothing has officially been announced, has it?
I don't. I heard Chicago. It might just be like you said. It might just be a rumor.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But let's-
I think that's just like
Let's assume
That's
that it's not
rumor.
happening in New York, and we'll
okay.
put Chicago in there. If anyone has any official word on that, let us know. But like, let's just say that's starting in Chicago. Just give it a little time. Just give like just like a little like build up, and
Well,
let us
see-
care about the characters and.
Yeah, I agree with you there because I feel like the Division 1 kind of missed storytelling 1.0, like when you have a big traumatic event, in that if we as the person experiencing it, we don't know what quote-unquote normal life is like, then we have nothing to like attach our feelings to, basically. And I remember now that was honestly something that was a little bit jarring when I played the Division 1. It was just like literally like boom, here it is.
Yeah, there was like a
And then
helicopter
you're like,
crash,
what-
and it was.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, what the hell? Like, why do I care about this? Like, what is going on? Which I think, considering the premise of the Division, is hilarious because the entire like story is that these Division agents were just regular citizens, but they were like super undercover basically.
Yeah.
So it's like you could have me like fucking go down the street, get a mocha, and then a bomb goes off or something, you know? Like I never really thought that was asking much, and then, you know, do like a 2 years later splash screen or something, you know? Like I obviously like that's like super just like rushed and cliche,
I mean,
but
like,
like
you could
you
like
do something.
Let me like tighten that up just like a little bit here. You're going down the street, you're getting a mocha, like you're talking to your neighbors, and you're sitting there like, and like bomb goes off,
And it's your son's birthday.
Sure, it's your son's birthday. Bomb goes off, and then you kind of like you get knocked to the ground, and then like your phone rings, and then like it picks it up, and it's like it's the lady that gets hurt in the helicopter crash or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like you've been activated, go here, and then like you go, and then like you go, and then like that's your kind of introduction to like the tutorial.
Yeah.
And then you can have like the helicopter thing,
right?
and then
Like, come on. Like
feels-
we just like yeah.
like
No,
I get that like that like kind of requires like setting up like a whole new like or like a whole new environment and everything, but like it leads into it so much more. It gets you like motivated. Like maybe your son died, so now you have like personal reason.
Yeah, you have something, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah. Because I mean, I feel like a lot of the motivation was all on the other characters. Mm-hmm. Like it literally had nothing to do
Does your
with
character
you,
even
and
speak?
it was. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's always tough.
Maybe
like,
they do.
That can work and that can not work.
Yeah.
And
I feel like in a game like that where it's like this is set in the real world, you have to care.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work. Like you have to make me talk. Anytime
I mean-
you're wanting it to be more than a mindless shooter, you have to have character driven exposition like from the player.
I don't know if you do. I like it definitely makes it easier, but I think that like because I can understand like wanting to like have a blank slate for your player to play as, but it definitely has to like there still has to be like a personal drive for it, and like you can still present it as like people understand what you're doing without like needing to speak. I don't like I'm with you that I would rather have my character speak because it gives, like you said, it gives more. But
yeah, I just have never enjoyed the whole blank slate thing. It doesn't work, in my opinion. Like,
not even Dead Space?
Dead Space, your character talks.
Not the first one, right?
I don't know. It's been such a long time.
All right, I'm gonna say Half-Life then. I'm just gonna throw Half-Life out there as a.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm probably gonna get fucking lynched by the internet, but Half-Life was a decent game, but I wouldn't call it like greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
And I
Did I
felt
ever tell you?
like
Did I ever show you Freeman's Mind?
that game especially honestly had a lot of moments where it's like I should be saying something right now, and
Yeah.
the characters just like fucking stare at me for like a good half beat, and then something explodes.
Did I ever show you Freeman's Mind?
Maybe, probably, I don't know.
It's so good. It's just like it's a person like he goes through like he plays the game, and it's kind of like a let's play, but he's doing it from the perspective of Freeman. So it's just him voicing Freeman's thoughts. It's really fucking funny.
I don't know.
I may have
can't
mentioned it
remember
to you. I
if
don't know if
showed
I
me that
ever
or
showed
not.
it to you, but I'll link it to you at some point.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But yeah, no, I mean, I've never really played a game where I was a blank slate and I felt good about it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest exception is Doom. Like the most recent iteration of Doom, your character never verbally talks, but he still has a few scenes where like you can kind of get the feel of his attitude
yeah,
just by like the cinematic or whatever, like, you know, when he like punches the computer or something. And not only that, but that game is literally supposed to be you just fucking kill demons, go. Like it's not supposed to have like this like intricately woven emotional story,
Yeah.
even though it does have a great story in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never felt like the blank slate character does well.
Sure. I mean, I think that it depends on how it's done. Like you said, like I think it's very like you have to do it well. Like it's easier to do a story with the speaking protagonist, but it's not impossible to do it without. I don't like that's
Yeah. I don't. It just.
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like writing for a character that doesn't talk is extremely difficult because, like, you have to then make it so that everything that is said to the player is like a definitive statement
Yeah.
and is never anything that they could potentially react to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that removes so much more than what you might gain by having that blank slate.
My least favorite blank slate moment was Halo ODST,
Yeah.
where I think her name was Dare, and like your character show up, and they talk for like a second, and she's like, "What was your name again?" And I was like waiting for him to like say his name, and like there was like a
Yeah.
5-second pause, and then like some I want to say shriekers, but that's not it, like the flying enemies come
Yeah.
barging in and like interrupts the scene, so he doesn't get a chance to say his name. And I was like, ah. But that would have been so cool if like that was like the first moment that he talks in the game, because that's like the first time he really sees anyone in the game. But yeah,
I kind of remember that as well.
it was just like it was a really
and then-
awkward pause. It was like, what was your name again? And then it was like, and then,
Kaboom! Yeah. Yeah.
but anyway, yeah. So yeah, so we talked about story. We talked about some mechanics. Should we briefly talk about PvP, or do you want to say something else?
Yes, but also kind of a different branch. So I'm going to say two things that I would like to see. One is an actual, like, more open and, like, social world.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the fact that like the only place you could see other players outside of your like
Safe house.
team basically was the safe house.
Yeah.
Like the moment you leave the safe house, you are the only division agent, and I thought that was really weird. I don't know if that was a creative choice or like a technical limitations kind of choice or what.
Yeah.
But hopefully they get that fixed, because I always thought it was weird that it's like, you know, we're fighting hard, and by we I mean you, because you're the only one out there.
Yeah.
That was always very strange to me. And on the so that's that. I don't really have much to say beyond that.
I agree,
But on the PvP one, I would like to see a better, more refined, like, Dark Zone return. But I also think that the Division would make for a great Battle Royale type of game. And I'm sure everyone is, like, sick of that idea by now.
Yeah.
But especially if you couple it with the mechanics from the survival mode DLC or whatever that they released, I feel like that would work out really great. And I mean, realistically, like, that is what that survival mode is. It's a battle royale type of thing. But I feel like if you kind of like put those together on a larger scale, that you would have one killer experience.
Yeah.
Because you would have, you know, it's like, oh no, you know, like I have to worry about like my temperature levels and everything, which, I mean, that's kind of like what the Darwin Project is doing. I don't know if you've actually looked into that game at all. But I mean, that's obviously on a much smaller scale. That's only 10 people in an arena at any given time. Whereas I feel like the Division could probably get away with like 50 or something.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't even necessarily have to be like in a city. still. Like, it could be, just like out in some farmlands or whatever, like south of Chicago or something stupid.
I think it should. I'm gonna counter you. I think it should definitely be in the city because I feel like that would be a very unique thing to bring to the battle royale style game.
Oh, sure.
Like,
I mean, I agree. I was just saying, like,
Yeah.
if someone had some weird aversion to that, or you could do the smart thing and actually have more than one map.
What?
And I know that PUBG has 2 maps now technically, but that's like, I mean, I haven't played the desert map at all, so I don't know how different it really
It's
is.
very
But
different.
in my mind, okay, I was gonna say, I mean, in my mind, it kind of seems like it wouldn't play that much differently
Plays
since
completely
it's
differently.
still
It's so different.
okay. Okay. Well,
but also-
well, I mean, that's good.
Even
But
like
I mean,
the original
that-
map with the way that the circle goes down, like each match plays out very differently.
Well, sure.
But yeah, anyway,
I mean,
that's-
that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like having a variety in the maps, because I mean, like, you could have like the city, and then you could have like one that's like down in the sewers or something, and then maybe one that's like kind of more outside of the city, like in some suburbs or farmland or something. Like, having a variety in maps is a good thing, if you ask me. So
Sure.
that's what they need to do. If they do that, and then if they have like some sort of like solid story mode and some better integration of their core systems, then I feel like they'll actually have a game that sells well and stays alive for more than 2 months.
I mean, it's still doing well technically. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean,
As
that's
for- as,
what
like,
people say.
not like it's not like doing fantastic, but it's doing pretty well for a game that's like
Yeah.
4 years old, 3 years old at this point. 2.5 years,
I don't think it's that old.
2.5 years.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think the last time we talked
let's-
about Division, we looked it up.
Yeah, probably.
But all I know is that you're not going to convince me to buy this one day one.
I mean, I'm not going to convince me to buy it day one. So.
You said that last time. To be honest.
Yeah, it's 2 years old. 2 years old at the beginning of this month.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. It wasn't
Released
March 1st.
March 8th, 2016.
Okay. I mean, it's still doing decently well, but I think it definitely I think it kind of fits in that like level of games, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege, where it kind of like failed at the beginning, but then like they did pretty good post-launch support.
I think, yeah. I mean, I still think it's not nearly as successful as what people might like to think. It definitely has probably
Sure.
a bigger audience now than what it did, in July of 2016. But I don't think it's nearly even comparable to Rainbow Six Siege.
Sure.
But I don't know.
I'm thinking about
Anyways.
picking that up and playing that.
Yeah, I've thought about that several times, and I always decide against it.
I mean, it's either I'm gonna be, if you want to get it, we can get it on Xbox. Otherwise, I'm gonna get it on PC. But
I mean, you do whatever.
all right,
Even if I did get it on Xbox and you got it on Xbox, you know just as well as I do that I wouldn't play it very often. So,
yeah, that's true. All right,
so you do whatever. If you end up buying it on Xbox and I buy it on Xbox later down the road or something, then maybe we'll play together. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
all right. Well,
Anyways,
I think that's gonna
we're-
wrap it up. Let us know what you want to see in the Division 2 down in the comments, and whether or not anything that we've mentioned made its way into the game. And yeah, we'll see you guys
The
next time.
game being the first game because we
Yeah,
don't play
right.
it. So,
Yeah, we don't know anything about it. But anyway, we'll see you guys next time on Split Couch Games.
bye.
Bye.